Computer. There we go. Great stuff. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. It's great to see you all. We're going to have a good chat today about sales and marketing and business development, and how we improve things and how we keep going and keep growing. I think there's going to be some important stuff in here for all of you. So welcome along. I'll just let more people into the room as we go. So as I said, this is session 12, and it's a very, very important subject. This business development, improving sales and marketing, help us grow, help us improve our business, help ourselves improve as individuals, and be passionate about what we're talking about, so that we can let more and more people understand about the things that we are passionate about and the things that we know that really work for us. Therefore, we want to share it with other people. I remember working with Bob Proctor, and he said, once you understand self-development, you will never stop wanting to share it with other people. And I remember thinking to myself, I don't understand quite what he meant. But then as soon as I started to really have my sort of, moments of enlightenment, if you want to call it that, and to see that these strategies worked, all the stuff I've spoken about in Life Remixed and all the things we speak about on these sessions, as soon as I started to see it work, I just wanted to share it with other people. And you might notice from my what I do day to day that that's exactly what I do, because I just love sharing this information with others. So welcome along. Before we start, do the usual. Please make sure that you rename if you know your e-colours. You can see my little screen there, yellow red, says Y/R. So please do rename yourself if you know your e-colours. Just useful, especially when we start to talk about how we communicate with other people. When we're looking at business development, I think it's very, very important to want to communicate with people in a way that they need to be communicated with. If you can, put your webcam on, forgiving Andy for his marathon exploits, and he needs his feet up. Using headphones to avoid any echoes, use the chat box as well. Please keep that chat box alive. Emma's already put some comments in there. Good morning. So yeah, please do use the chat box if you'd like to contribute any ideas or anything like that. And yeah, let's talk about improving sales and marketing. Please do contribute as we go through. Now, if you think about the 7 things to master, we talk about understanding who you are. It's the very first step. You need to understand who you are. And that's not a one-time affair. That's an ongoing lifetime commitment. Creating the attitude of gratitude, and then believing and having confidence in yourself and what you're doing and what you're delivering. All of these are steps that need to be taken. Creating purpose or purposes, having a vision, having goals, and making sure you stay on track. Creating and cultivating, protecting the positive mental attitude, so you cannot be knocked off course. Creating leadership yourself, and then other people around you, and then teamwork, creating a great team, all leading to money and growth, which is ultimately sales and marketing, and that's what we need to talk about, business development. All of these steps need to be taken in order that we can get to where we need to get to. Vanessa, no problem with the signal in Saudi. Totally understand. Really appreciate you being here. So I said this the other day, and Paul Hutchinson really liked it. If you could be a millionaire on your own, you'd already be one. And that's if you want to be, of course. But a lot of people want more money, but a lot of people don't know how to do it. A lot of people say, I'd like to have more money. Well, more money doesn't really mean anything, because if you want more money, here's a fiver and off you go. You've got more money. Really, we want to set goals, and we want to be very, very clear with our goals about what we're going to hit. So let's just say if you want a million, okay, if you want a million, if you could do that on your own, you'd already have done it. So then you need to analyze and self-analyze and say, well, okay, why haven't I done that? And if you haven't done that, then you need to have a look around. And we spoke last week, didn't we? A massive thing about the mastermind and having a group of people together. The very first thing is trust. The very first thing is trust. And if you go around and you talk to a lot of people will tell you they don't trust other people. Or they might say something like, well, they're not as good as me, so therefore, I can't let go of something in my business. It's a real killer. And it does stop us growing. Yes, it comes with bumps in the road because other people are different. But ultimately, if you could have made a million on your own and you want to do it, you'd have already done it. So therefore, how about we try it a different way? So we call this the world's finest place for leadership every Tuesday. We're going to keep going and keep going because we love sharing this information. We're going to share lots and lots of steps around success. You can choose to be in the top 3-4% of wealthy individuals in the UK. You do have the choice. And, that can be done within a few short years, in all honesty. And it does start with your mindset. as a key point. You and your mindset being your thoughts and feelings, and how you interact with other people around you. So know thyself. Scott Quires on the call very kindly sent me his e-colours percentages just before the call because he just discovered them on his premium report. Um, yeah, I think it's a great experience to start to understand your percentages, and you all know me by now. Very high yellow, socializer, optimistic, energetic, big picture, enthusiastic. Yes, yes, yes. Um, Very close, getting things done. Red, very lots of empathy, care about every single one of you. And my green thinker is my potential limiter there. But I do get a lot of help with that from Emma and from lots of other people around me as well. Because I do have some potential limiters and I'm aware of them. And thankfully, lots of other people do help me when I have those limitations and when they show up. So we need to drive growth, right? We need to understand ourselves first, and then we need to understand other people. We're going to talk about strategies for better sales and marketing. I'm going to give all of you a chance to speak. And Paul is on the call because he's in Asia, but Paul Hutchinson has just taken over some of my social media. So I'd love you to hear from him a little bit later as well. If his internet is strong enough to do that, I can, fingers crossed, Paul. But how many people say, I don't like sales? How often do you hear that? I don't like sales. I'm not into sales. I don't like sales, etc., etc. Use the chat box, but let me know, how often do you hear that? Have you heard that a lot with people? What sort of people have said that? Without judgment, just as observations. Who are the sort of people that say they don't like sales? Who are the sort of people that don't like, being sold to? Think about this and start to think about it in more detail. A lot of people will say that I don't like sales, right? Okay, well, let's think about that in a whole other. Yeah, Kerry. Yeah, yeah. I think I even wrote that earlier. Um, People think it's a dirty word. Andy says, I know for himself it was down to fear for sure. And Andy, great admission. A lot of people that have fear will say they don't like sales straight off the bat. Um, James, too right. Believing in your product makes sales very, very easy. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to talk about that, and then obviously how we can communicate our belief. Because I get called a lot. I've been called quite a lot in different scenarios too salesy, right? And I'm like, oh, that's not my intention at all. My intention is just to say this is great stuff that I'm doing. I really enjoy, and I'd love to share with you, and that's it. But yeah, there's a lot of things in there that some people get very defensive about, and you have to think about that. I don't like sales; those people that get defensive. Um, Paul Grant says often people who are independent avoid dealing with people. Yeah, 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 absolutely. Yeah, yeah, understood that. Angela says there's a fear of losing control by trusting someone else. Okay, yeah, understood. Very interesting comment from all of you. Paul says, I don't like, Paul Hutchinson says, I don't like it when people start with a sales build relationship trust first. Absolutely. You'll build relationship first. Tanya says, I don't like the hard sell. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It puts people off. It puts me off as well. I don't like people hard selling. It's not good. It's not nice. No one likes to feel pressured. If you feel pressured straight away, you push back. You're like, I don't want to know about that. Karen says it depends. Cold calling is hard. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Cold calling is very difficult. Not my favourite thing to do at all. And there's a bit of rejection in there as well for me. I don't like being rejected. No one really likes being rejected. Well, perhaps some people can do it. Those hard sales, cold call people. But it's not for me. Vanessa says when people trust you, they trust what you're saying. Absolutely, Vanessa. And trust is a big, big part of it. I don't like sales is quite often said by people that are not involved or think that they're not involved in sales. They think they're not involved. Yeah, they quite often they get a job, they go to work, they do their job, and they go home at the end of the day. Let me ask you about those people. Are those people involved in sales? If they're going to work, doing their job, not in a sales job, but just in any job, they're going to work, doing the job, going home, looking after the kids, going to sleep. Are they involved in sales? Kerry says yes. John says yes. Yes, 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 yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. They're selling themselves. When you go for a job interview, you are selling yourself. You're selling your services. You're selling your skills. So therefore, every single human being is involved in sales in one form or another. So when people say they don't like sales, that's a really interesting comment, and I like to look deeper than that because I like to see people that start to struggle. Tanya says, "Yeah, this has happened to me." Wow, the chat box is alive. I love it. Great, amazing chat box today. Fantastic. Keep sharing, guys, because it's really, really interesting to see everyone's perspectives. But the key point here is we're all involved in sales. Every single human being, whether they like it or not. Unless you're laying on the sofa doing nothing all day, then you are involved in selling services or indeed products or ideas. Or we all are. So therefore, we need to make our comfort with that. Yeah. And Scott says they're getting no response can be frustrating, some kind of acknowledgement. That's an interesting one, Scott. I've learned to deal with that one by convincing myself or understanding that there's 8 billion people on this planet, and they don't all want to talk to me. I'd like them to talk to me, but I'd like to hear from them. But if they don't want to get back to me or anything like that, doesn't matter. Not a problem. There's 8 billion other people that are, just under
I
8
would,
billion other
I
people.
would, I would prefer to go away rather than just nothing, you know.
Well, yeah, but a lot of people have that fear. A lot of people have that fear that if they're trying to, if they say go away, then you might come back and try another angle to sell to them. It's that hard sell, it's that fear. So I think from our perspective, it's having that pause button on our wrists. With our wristbands and being able to just go, well, it's okay. I only deal with people that want to deal with me. Yeah, I'm not going to hard sell to other people. There is absolutely no point. It becomes frustrating, as what Scott said. Um, Vanessa says you can please some of the people some of the time, but not all of the people all the time. Absolutely. Don't. I'd suggest getting frustrated and with your score, yellow, red, red, yellow, Scott. Certainly. I think that it's easy to get frustrated because you're fast paced and you want to go, go, go. But I think steady away will get you quicker to where you want to get to. Emma says it takes me less time to ignore and delete than reply to someone trying to sell. Yeah, that's a good point, and that's from a green blue perspective there for you, Scott, from my wife. So, but anyway, look, why do people think, feel, and say this? Well, we've analysed that, but ultimately, a lot of it is based around fear. Okay, and if you are talking to a fearful person, then it's probably not the sale or the business development piece you want to work on. However, we are going to talk about communication and how to communicate with other people so that we get the result that we would really like more often than not. So let's be clear, we are all involved in sales. Like I wrote it 3 times in massive letters. We are all involved in sales. So therefore, we need to overcome any of our own fears, because if we're observing fears in other people, we need to overcome our fears to actually be able to talk about our products and sell what our services, our products, what we're doing. Andy Ward, actually, at this stage, are you able to just speak for a moment, Andy?
Yes, sir.
Um, so you had a fear about sales and putting yourself out there a bit more. You used to get by and you sold your services and your website development and everything else. But then we worked together for about 12 months, didn't we, in coaching, and then we're still talking a lot and you've become an e-colors practitioner. But you kind of got through that fear, and you always make me smile when you say all of a sudden I've like put up my cost and my prices for my website and everybody is paying it and there's no problem. um Talk about that transition a little bit.
The dislike of I used to dislike talking about money very quickly because of my childhood. My dad came from a very poor background and he made money his god, so to speak, in it, and I saw how it changed him as a person. So I disliked people talking about money a lot. People who over spoke too much about money I didn't like. But when you spoke to me, you showed me that money isn't necessarily a bad thing, and it enables us to do what we need to do. And once I understood that, it made me stop and think a little bit more, and then not being fearful of other people thinking the same way about me that I used to think about my dad and the people who he associated with. Coming back to what people think of using a new business and everything like that. It's like, okay, well, I need to put value on what I'm doing and don't worry about what they think, because if they do, then they're not the client for me. And it was incredible how people were just like, oh yeah, is that what it is? Okay, no problem. That if you used to charge me 300 quid, but then I'm quoting someone 800 quid, and they're like, yeah, fine. You've just got to have confidence in your product. I feel I probably rambled the answer out there, but
So you did, you did, and that's really cool because that's a journey in itself, what you said. But I thought of you as I was talking about this because you used to be almost like anti-sales, or certainly you didn't like it, and then all of a sudden you've had this sort of inner change over sort of 12 months or more, understanding money's just a product, it's a tool, don't attach emotions to it, and now you're charging like, dare I say, double probably to what you were before for your service because that's actually how good it is and what it's worth and people are willingly paying it. And I
that's
think
that's right. Yeah, completely. You don't realize until you actually try it, and then you step back and go, "Wow, it took me this long to understand this and have the confidence in what you." And that's what it is. It's about confidence, isn't it? The fear of being rejected.
absolutely, mate, absolutely.
And also, if I can just interject finally, very quickly, most people know I run a music festival. I have done for many, many years. I don't really see that as sales. I'm just sharing an experience with my friends. Come and enjoy this party, fantastic party of your lifetime for next to nothing. I've got no problem pushing that on people because I'm just sharing the experience. I don't see it as selling. I have no problem doing that whatsoever, but I always had problems with trying to offer other services. But again, it's down to confidence.
It's down to confidence, down to belief. It's just down to the way we perceive certain things. I had a conversation with a client recently who I'm going to pay, a 10% referral fee back to, because she recommended me to a friend of hers, as a coach for 12 months. And she was very uncomfortable with the offer of the 10% back, so from as a thank you from me as a gift. But she's also very comfortable charging in other areas. So we have different beliefs at different times about different things. But I think the key point is life will give what you demand, right? What you think you're worth. What Vanessa is saying there about, you need to believe in your value. Yeah, absolutely. Believe in your value. So if you are an employee in a low paid job, you're accepting that. You're allowing that to happen. Okay. So everything is an inside job. Bob Proctor taught me that. I remember thinking, no, I don't get it. What are you talking about? But he's right. He's absolutely right. Everything is an inside job. Once we start to get the inside job and we start to get ourselves into a positive place, we can start to earn more money. And it's a gradual process. Don't suddenly start getting, if we overplay our strengths and get too much ego and start charging millions, well, we might start to have problems. So we need to understand that. But look, um, sales drive business forward. Look, these are all the things that it brings to us. New customers, yes. New ideas come into our world when someone's talking about something that they're passionate about, like what Jane said in the chat box there. And Emily saying, I'm feeling this at work and realizing I deserve so much more. Brilliant, Emily. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. New customers, new ideas, growth of a good idea. This is all the benefits of sales, right? Good cash flow for you, yeah, new jobs, building long-term relationships, and motivating yourselves, and others. This is the important thing. Okay, this is what we need to do. Scott, absolutely. Forcing things is actually a problem. There's a universal law that says force negates. It's very much when we try and force things, we end up getting frustrated, and other people tend to reject it. So it's very much about understanding we're not here to force anything. We don't need to force anything. Just got to be a little bit patient, build ourselves up to get to where we want to get to. But sales do drive business forward, and you deserve so much more as individuals. You're working on yourselves just by being here and being part of this group and us having these conversations every week. That's the important thing, yeah? Andy made a great comment there. The art of giving more than is expected, and that coming back threefold. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Vanessa, yes, you're right. You must have boundaries. If you overgive, and we studied a whole book club on this. And Vanessa, I suggest you read a book called Give and Take by Adam Grant. It's a really, really good book, and it's about understanding that giving and giving and giving is a positive thing within the boundaries of your success, with a clear purpose behind it. So here's a few reasons that people don't like sales, right? Pressure to meet targets. You've all met the pushy salesperson who's pushing, pushing, pushing. The salesperson feels pressurized. So does the potential customer feels pressurized, and you're not gonna move anything forward. There's a perception with that salesperson of dishonesty. You all think about the dishonest car salesman, second-hand car salesman who's trying to sell you a dodgy deal. yeah, has a negative impact on everyone involved. Does not work, does not help. Rejection, right? We Andy and touched on fear. There's a few of us on the call that spoke about this. I used to have a massive fear of rejection, massive, huge. As a yellow blue e-color, I had a massive fear of rejection. I've worked really hard on myself in the last 15 years to get past that, to be this guy who has no longer that fear of rejection. But it can be very hard for some personality styles to get past this, and that's okay. It's part of the work, right? Part of the work to get the results you would really like to get. There can be a feeling of exploitation. People feel sold to rather than helped. So something that Paul Hutchinson just said about people just rushing to the sale rather than actually thinking about the relationship, the build, the positivity. You know, it's about helping other people, right? Rather than just trying to sell them something and then move on to the next thing. It's like, what can you do to help? Okay. A lack of control can certainly pop up. It was something that Angela spoke about earlier in the chat box there. Salespeople need to be passionate about their products of their choosing, but people can feel put upon, especially with pressure to meet targets from the salesperson themselves. All of that just becomes a negative spiral. And then there's that stereotype, isn't there? Salespeople. Most depictions on TV are negative. Yeah, someone trying to sell you something is like seen as a real negative, a real cheesy thing. Wayne makes a great point. People tend to buy from people they like, know, and trust. It's exactly right, Wayne. Exactly right. So it's important to build that with others and show as well. I spoke to a lot of my coaching clients about rather than just telling people, telling is one thing, kind of, it can work a little bit, but really show people. Show people your change. Show people where you are different. Show people how positive this experience has been for you. Show, rather than tell. And you can take that back to your children as well. Very often if you tell a child, they'll reject it. Emily says, lead by example. Exactly it, Emily. Show rather than tell, for sure. But these stereotypes of negative salespeople don't help when you are talking about something you're really passionate about. And there can be emotional labour involved. It can be emotionally draining for some. And Paul Grant says showing people a reflective experience. Yeah, absolutely. Something important. And, in sales, potentially, some people think there needs to be a high expectation for social skills, which is not natural for everyone. But the key point here is to understand that each of us have our own style. So when I'm talking about leadership, top color yellows will be inspirational leaders. Top color reds will be more directional leaders. Top color greens will be more strategic leaders. And top color blues will be more compassionate leaders. Well, we'll all have our own different sales strategies as well, and ways we like to talk and interact with people. You don't need to have massive social skills to be able to talk to someone about something you're really passionate about. So it's the process. Sales is the process of persuading, influencing people that are thinking that they would like to make a change or do something new or buy something new, but looking for the customer need. The big thing that I learned was to listen out for the pain points. Listen out for the pain points in people's lives. If you're talking to different people, are they getting the results they want? Is there something that they would like to improve in their lives? Do you have something that could help them? Then share it, discuss it. Yeah, there's lots of different ways you can do that. But we need to identify potential customers, leads who might be interested in the service you're offering. We need to understand whether that person has the potential to become that customer, they're involved, understand their needs, their budget, and their readiness. Yeah, it is very, very, very unethical to start trying to sell to people that can't afford it or that are not in a good place. That's nothing that I would get involved with. Ultimately, we need to understand their needs, their budgets, their readiness. Are they in a good place? If they're in a good place, then proceed with the idea. If they're not, don't hard sell, give them the space and allow them to come back when they're ready. And then present, demonstrate how the product or service can meet their customers' needs. And we'll talk about this when I show some of the e-color stuff in a moment. You've also got to be able to handle any concerns or questions that person has. Okay. If you're in a position where you can understand any concerns they have or any questions they might have. And by the way, you don't need to know every single answer in certain situations. If you don't know the answer to a question, you just ask to hold that, and we'll get back to them. It's relatively simple like that. You don't need to be the master of everything. A lot of people think they need to know everything before they make a start. You really don't. You can actually, make it happen as you go along. Finalizing the deal, asking the customer to get involved, of course, we need to be able to do that. But like Scott's point earlier, you can get frustrated if you're trying to focus on one person and they're not gonna, or one company and they're not gonna, buy, they're not gonna get there. Well, don't worry about it. There's 8 billion people on the planet. Let's keep talking to as many as possible. And we can do that in lots of different ways. And then follow up, always follow up, make yourself available. Lots of people, they'll make a sale and then they disappear because they're on to the next sale. Make yourself available, help other people, and get involved in repeat business referrals. You can do lots of different things, B2B, business to business, or B2C, business to consumer. There's lots of different ways, but you must build a relationship, earn trust, focus on delivering value, not just a quick transaction. Okay, key points. So how does a deep understanding of e-colors improve sales in a business and business development? And notice I've put the word a deep understanding, because a lot of people will say, well, e-colors, I'm blue, green, whatever. Yeah, okay, fine, But actually, there's a massively deep understanding that needs to come out of the e-colors for you to improve yourself and your business. I've been studying it for 15 years and I still learn. It's fantastic. We all understand the concept by now because many of you've seen. I know we've got a couple of new people on the call, but we all have a percentage of these within us. You saw my percentages earlier, and we all see the world slightly differently. Okay, but the key point here when we're talking about sales is the next words that we're putting up. So a red. If I'm talking to a top red about what are we doing, okay, and what the product is, and what are the benefits. And I might want to make it quite brief, stick to business. That will be a key communication piece when I'm talking to a top color red. And each of you, this applies, okay? We're going to have a little look at some business development e-color slides in a moment. But if you understand, if you start to listen out for top color red indicators, you start to see that I need to communicate in a certain way to this person. Now, you must also always listen out for the top 2 e-colors that are being shown, okay? Because most people show a predominance to 2. So listen out for those top 2 e-colors, not with judgment. You can ask someone to do their own questionnaire if you want to, but also when you're just having a quick communication, listen out from where they're coming from. So, what for a red? For a yellow, who is involved and can they be involved is key to a top yellow, okay? Because when that yellow engages with the person, likes the person, understands the person, can they be involved? Yes. Who else is involved? All those things are very, very important to a top yellow. Okay. From a green perspective, how will it help? How will it benefit? And we need to give details. For reds, we need to get to the point. For greens, we need to give the details. And you might have a red green or a green red that you're talking to, so those things might be priorities. So listen out, ask questions. Would you like the details? No, I just want to get to what it is. Okay, let's get to what it is. But listen to people. The greatest gift you can give is to listen to another human being. For yellows, you can have a great chat with them, of course, lots of times. From a blue perspective, why is this important? Why is it going to benefit them? And show empathy for them in a conversation. Listen out for the indicators and start to understand the best way to communicate with that person. Whenever you're having a conversation, it could be a casual conversation when you're walking down the street, right? It could be in an office environment. It could be anywhere. Any conversation with another human being, and you're talking about something that you're passionate about, listen out for these indicators. It will really help you. It's helped me over many, many years. Because we all have the strengths. And again, when I say a deep understanding of yourself and the e-colors and the people you're interacting with, yeah, it's easy to look at this list and go, yeah, I'm all those things. I'm some of the, yeah, okay, fine. But actually, self-analysis goes a lot deeper. Anyone that I've done the 12 months to remix your life with, self-analysis is a very, very interesting thing. Because we have a lot of things in our subconscious that we're not even really aware of that are showing up in our lives. And we need to look at why. But actually, once we start to understand the strengths, we start to understand where we get our strengths from, and we start to play our strengths, but not overplay them. then we start to get more positive results. As part of that, potential limiters. Potential limiters come into our lives. Yeah, it's very, very important that we understand these. Now, I have to admit, where mine come up at times. In the red, I might get a bit impatient at times, but I have a nice pause button on my wrist. Yeah. Emma might tell you sometimes I'm a selective listener or a poor listener because I'm go, 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 go. Again, it takes a really, really interesting person to want to understand themselves and be committed to understanding and improving themselves, to make life better, to make their life better and the lives of others better. Paul says the intentional communication slide is a great tool for helping people. Yes, absolutely. Perhaps I'll share that, Paul, after the call for everybody, because we give those out as cards and PDFs and things like that. But we need to understand these because we have a moment of choice in any conversation, in any opportunity to talk and listen with another human being. We have a moment of choice to manage our strengths and our potential limiters. Because once we've got that self-awareness and we're more conscious, we can have personal intervention and we can really start to get to understand others with pause and play. Do join our next e-colours session as well for the half day with myself and Andy Ward as well. Now, when I say in there about listening out for these indicators, this is a deep understanding of people, and we can't just do it in a few slides, right? But it's ongoing commitment from yourselves where we can get to and understand others. So like I said to you about the different quadrants and where people are sitting in them, reds might tell you things and want to know what or when. Yellows might want to engage and have great conversation and who's involved. A top green might explain lots of things to you and really want to know how it's going to benefit. And blues might want to relate to you more and want to know why we're doing something. From a listening point of view, reds, because they're so action orientated and go, 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 might speed listen and ignore unless they've done this improvement work on themselves over many years. And the same would go for yellows. We might selectively listen and we might interrupt because we're so excited and we want to share a story or something. Blues will listen with a lot of empathy, but they might withdraw and go quiet. And that can be really difficult. So, for instance, Scott, you said earlier about getting frustrated when you don't get any response. If you're getting no response from a top colour blue, it might just be because they're not ready. They don't want to get involved, or they just need to understand more why it's important for them, things like that. But again, we can start to get to this place of understanding each of the personality quadrants. And if your greens will actively listen to you, but will also question you and ask lots and lots of questions. And if we can start to really understand these speaking, listening, and information filters, these are very, very important things that we can start to get intentional communication from. And Paul has just emailed me a version for me to send out to you all. Once you understand the intentional communication guide that I'm going to send to you, you can print it out, put it by your desk, think about the person you're going to speak to, think about the sales call or the conversation you're about to have about a product that you would like the company to adopt, and make sure, if you're not sure of the person's e-colours, make sure you cover all of these. Yeah, sit down and think about, okay, so what it is, how it's going to benefit them, why it's going to benefit them, who's involved, and when would they like to do it. And you can go around that quadrant and make sure you've got it all covered in a call. But when you listen to the other person, you'll hear the tendencies from them. And when you hear those tendencies from them, you can start to hone in on that and go, okay, right, so I can hear this person's coming out as a top green. They've got lots of questions. Okay, so I need to make sure I'm really conscious of the how. And if I haven't got the data to hand, then I can come back with lots of data to give them the information that they need. Very, very powerful. You might get some easy verbal clues in conversations. I want it or need it, just do it, figure it out, make it happen with things that you might well hear from a top colour red, especially if they're in massive do mode. And that's what they want to make happen. But again, there can be frustrations there with the other e-colours who are not as high doers. Yellows will say things like awesome and epic and I believe, and that was the greatest thing ever, and all kinds of other things, very demonstrative. But that would be a top yellow talking, and you can hear those easy verbal clues. And I'll be honest with you, all the people on this call that I've interacted with before, these indicators are very, very clear to me. I just saw Kerry pop up on the screen. Kerry, lots of yellow, and you and I are in the room together talking, laughing, joking, smiling. That's just us. when I'm talking to Paul Hutchinson, who's on the screen there. Paul's green over red. He's put red green actually, but I think you're green over red actually, Paul. But that's okay. But as a green over red with Paul Hutchinson, very much, details, gets, very down in the details to make sure everything's all right, wants to take action. I hear that. I hear those indicators with Scott, yellow, red, red, yellow, Scott, with your percentages. I hear that with you. It's very important to understand where every single human being is coming from, because we all have these within us. Blues, again, you might get no response from a blue, or they might be very much, well, I feel, I understand, I agree. And from a green perspective, technically, that's not exactly accurate, Mark. It's something I might hear in my house from time to time. What exactly do you mean, Mark? These are things that I said, but it's important. It's such an important thing. We must master this, and it doesn't get mastered in 5 minutes. It gets mastered through a lifetime of understanding where each individual is coming from. But when we get to that point, and I believe I'm there, though I can still make mistakes. But when I get there, or when we get there, we actually get to somewhere where we can go, right, I can see where this person's coming from. I can see how to communicate with this person, and therefore I can give them the very best opportunity to understand where I'm coming from. Yeah. And don't beat yourself up if it doesn't work. There's 8 billion people on the planet. Lots of other opportunities are out there. So as I can see, a top colour red on the screen being Scott. Scott, would you like to unmute for a second? Can you read this? If you want me to listen, do and do not.
Yeah. So the do's: be clear, specific, and to the point.
Yeah.
Stick to the business. Give logical benefits to key ideas.
Yeah.
A couple of the do nots is talk about things that are not relevant to the issue.
Yeah.
Leave loopholes or cloudy issues.
Yeah.
And appear disorganized.
So from your red perspective, and anyone else in the chat box, or any other top reds like Andy or Karen or anyone else on the call, Scott, if I want to communicate with you, and I appreciate your red and yellow are very close, so you'll be able to look at the yellow in a moment as well. But from a red perspective, how do you feel about that? Does that make sense to you? If I was working with you and making sure that I wanted you to understand where I'm coming from?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know when I'm listening to someone, and it's very much. I don't want to hear the labour pains. Just tell me whether it's a boy or a girl.
I've heard that before. I had a supervisor once who walked in and said, I don't want to hear about the labour, just give me the baby. Yeah, that's so funny. That's so funny. But a very red perspective. So yeah, great shout, Scott. Thank you. Paul Grant, do you want to unmute for a second? You'll hear Paul's, and listen very carefully here. Listen to Scott, red, yellow, the way he communicated that there. And now listen to Paul Grant when he shares with us. Paul?
Yeah, absolutely. It works for me.
Is that it? Do you want to share anything else?
No, I think that's the version without the labour pains.
I'm putting you on the spot I'm putting you on the spot to make a point, right? But you understand, right? And everyone else understands. I mean, you're one of the co-founders of this, so you brought this to life. But essentially, listen to Paul Grant will just go, yeah, done. You get very short emails from Paul Grant. And it's okay, right? It's okay. Stick to business. Give logical benefits. Be clear. And Paul, sometimes I feel sorry for you that you're working with me and Lewis and some other top yellows, because there must be moments that can be a little bit frustrating, I guess, at times.
I think that once you start to understand and appreciate the e-colors, you don't take it personal. You just see, okay, they're yellows, they're having a chat and a bit of a cuddle, and that's fine.
Just one other thing before you go offline again. Dean, one of your business partners, he's a top yellow, and he talks a lot about his ideas, doesn't he?
Yeah, 2 and 20 we call them. Two of his ideas are fantastic. The other 18 aren't so good.
So he actually comes to you. Is that per month? Is it, or per week? I can't remember.
I would say it used to be on a monthly basis. There was 20 ideas coming out, and 2 were good ones. The other 18 didn't quite hit the mark.
And those were his words, right? So he understood that. Yeah. So yeah. But really interesting point. Really interesting point. And yeah, thank you, Paul. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Paul, from the red perspective there. I think that's really useful. Let's get a top yellow. Kerry, I can see you on the screen. Would you like to unmute for a moment?
Hi.
Hi, do you want to read these out if you want the yellow to listen?
Yeah, of course. So do provide a warm and friendly atmosphere, give me a chance to speak, and ask feeling questions to draw comments from me.
Yeah.
Do not be curt, cold, or light-tipped,
Tight-lipped.
tight-lipped even. And control the conversation and give too many details. Drive hard on facts and figures.
Yeah. So from a yellow perspective, certainly, with your yellow blue, how does that feel?
Yeah, resonates completely. I mean, working backwards is interesting actually because it's on my limiter side in my green facts and figures. I tend to go a little bit cold, so that's a development point for me, definitely.
Yeah.
Um,
But from a,
yeah, anyone who's go
from a
on,
pers-
sorry.
so from a perspective of when you're dealing with someone that's clearly a top color green and they're very data driven, or a top color, well, I mean, you said that you before in corporate you could easily go to red. So as a top color green who's very detail driven, if they're trying to drive hard on facts and figures, that can cause you a real issue, correct?
Yeah, just it's a little bit of it's been my gremlin, and it just I guess I'm gonna use the word turns me off a little bit, right? In respect to the flow of the conversation. Yeah, definitely.
Sure.
I think a little bit of fear. Has crept in before? Do I know they're very data driven and very analytical, all about facts and figures? Is that going to trip me up potentially, you know?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And I've been there as a yellow blue. I've been there. As a yellow red, it doesn't bother me anymore. But certainly, it's something to be aware of for sure. And I think, I think Andy made a really good point there about ego in the chat box. The massive thing for me there is what Paul Grant said, not taking things personally. The ego and understanding it was a huge turning point in my life. Very much, if someone else has got a really strong ego about themselves, that can potentially kick back on us and make us feel something. And one of the key points of coaching is helping us understand that we don't need to let anyone else make us feel anything. In fact, we allow them to do that. But ultimately, understanding your strengths and what you bring to the team, top yellows. Thank you, Kerry. Understanding what top yellows bring to the team and enjoying your strengths and knowing where you're confident is a very, very important thing. Jane says the facts and figures are boring and make me snooze really quick. Jane, spoken like a true yellow. Totally understand where you're coming from. It's okay, but it's part of the process, right? So if we're communicating with a green, then we need to give that green the facts and the figures to understand themselves. We've got a top blue that I can see on the screen. Who have we got? I'm not sure I've got any top blues. Oh, yes, we have Angela. Angela, would you like to unmute?
Yeah, I'm sort of top green as well because
Yeah.
all of my quadrants are sort of almost the same really. So,
Yeah.
but I definitely resonate with blue and green. So do begin with a personal comment, break the ice, present your case softly, explain why, be patient and ask how questions. For example, how do you feel about that? Do not be threatening or force them to respond quickly.
Yeah.
Rush headlong into business, be domineering or demanding. I definitely need time to take information away, think about it, weigh up the pros and cons, and the risks and benefits, and then come up with a decision. So I'm a Libran as well, so that doesn't help with decision making.
But that's a
So
really important point you make there as well. And I really want to look at the two perspectives there. You listen to what Scott said earlier about as a red yellow, he gets frustrated but sometimes if people don't come back to him or things like that. I could relate to that as a yellow red myself. I can relate to what Scott's saying. But if we listen to blue green and green blue perspective, like what you're sharing there, Angela, I think it's really key for us to appreciate that we need to give information, walk away, step away, give you time to think about it, come back. If we come back, talk about it softly. How do you feel about this? Any thoughts or feelings about what we spoke about? Those kind of things are going to help if we're talking about business development to a blue green and green blue. Would you agree, Angela?
yeah, definitely. And if it's a cold calling as well, I like politeness and I like people to deliver that in a kind way. I can't stand it when you get cold callers who think they know you. And hi, Angela. It's
But it's
like,
so fake, isn't it? It's so fake.
yeah, it is. Yeah. Integrity is huge in when it comes to sales for me.
Yeah.
They've got to sound like they're passionate about what they're trying to sell, and actually that it's not a selling point. It's about influencing and persuading, and yeah. So
I would suggest that's probably, I would say we can all relate to that, no matter what our e-colors are.
mm,
So that's more of a deeper character thing. I think we can all relate to what you just said there. Um, but I also think that from the e-colors perspective, if we're going to communicate with each other based on these quadrants and really appreciate them, my life has become inherently more successful in the last 5 years once I communicate with people in the way they need to be communicated with. So I sent a message to a top yellow earlier, who's been flirting around me for a while, kind of like, oh, I like the e-colors. Let's have a look at that. I sent a message to him earlier and said, look, I've got this practitioner training at the end of the March. At the end of March, I think it'd be good for us to have a discussion, about you getting involved in it because I'm talking to him, who's involved. But as a yellow blue, I started with, how are you? Is everything okay? I hope everything's, authenticity, as you said, right? I genuinely care, and also, does he want to be involved? So I've gone blue, yellow. Okay, here we go. This is,
but it's interesting with emails as well, isn't it? Like that
yeah,
language of emails is, if you get a one-liner back, I remember before thinking, well, that's rude. But actually that's just you can bet your bottom dollar they were a red, and it turns out they probably were. That's just their style. So it almost you reply back in that way because you don't have to write hi or dear at the
yeah,
beginning. You just put
yeah,
the information.
yeah.
So yeah, that's a good
It's
example, really.
it's quite an interesting point that comes up a lot, especially when yellows, blues, and greens are dealing with top reds, and top reds will send one word or one line. They won't use your name. It's just like hi, da, 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 and people think, oh, that's really rude, and it's just not. It's
No,
just how they're viewing the world. And as you say, if you mirror it back to them, you don't need to ask how. You don't need to. You just mirror it back and give them what they need. Bullet points. It becomes a really interesting way to communicate in the world. So, Angela, brilliant share. Thank you. Only for time, I'm just going to push on a little bit there. But the chat box is amazing. Karen says, "My pet hat is Hey Karen." Hilarious. Instant delete. Paul Hutchinson as a green. How's your internet?
I think it's okay.
All right,
I'm
good.
in Gilead now, so
Okay, so you're in Asia. Whereabouts is that? Somewhere in Asia, right?
yeah, the Gili Islands. It's just off Lombok
Okay, nice. So it looks
and
warm.
Bali.
It
Yeah,
looks it looks warm. So
yeah,
enjoy yourself. But
proper warm.
from a top green perspective, if we want you to listen, can you read that out for us?
Yeah, so do prepare your case in advance accurately. Provide pros and cons with data. Stick to business and speak about the task first.
Uh-huh.
And do not be silly, casual, informal, or loud. Push too hard or be unrealistic with deadlines.
Yeah,
And be organized. Do not be organized or messy.
disorganized.
Disorganized, sorry.
So, how do you
Yeah.
feel about that? Because I remember we've just started working together, and a couple of weeks ago, I pointed out there was a spelling mistake in something that you did, and that
Yeah.
bugged you, didn't it?
Yeah, it really did. I mean, I do think I'm a little bit dyslexic anyway, but it does frustrate me because I feel like I've missed something and I shouldn't have.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
Don't worry about it.
it's
Seriously, you're dealing with a top yellow. Top yellow's like, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Do it all the time. Um, but,
yeah,
um,
yeah.
Paul, from your perspective, if we're coming to you, if I want you to listen, if I'm trying to sell something to you, if I'm accurate, data, stick to business, talk about the task, once we've built a bit of a relationship, and I'm not, pushing too hard, being informal, casual, loud, or disorganized, that's really going to help me communicate with you, isn't it?
100%. Yeah, exactly.
Great.
Yep.
Well, that's
I
important.
like it when it's straight to the point as well, and just kind of, just get to the point because
That's
everybody's
green
busy.
red. That's very green red.
Yeah.
Paul. Yeah.
Okay.
And I've known Paul for some time. He's ex. Well, no, you're still an international DJ, obviously, but
Yeah.
also running a great social media agency. So I'm going to let Paul speak in a few minutes as well, just to give us a bit more information. Thank you, Paul, and thank you for all those perspectives. Now, look, sometimes we'll start with doubt and resistance. Let's call this the pathway to appreciation. Understanding yourself, understanding others, being able to communicate with them. Don't just tolerate people, but actually appreciate people. you'll get the best possible results once you really, and it's a lifelong commitment. It really is, consciously, subconsciously as well, to get there. Arnold Schwarzenegger wrote a great book that I read probably about a year ago now, Be Useful. Um, he talks about investing in yourself. He said this: early to bed, early to rise, work, 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 and advertise. And actually, what he actually said was work like crazy and advertise. So I've changed it slightly. But early to bed, early to rise, work, 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 and advertise. Let's talk about this. Are you actually advertising what you're doing? You have some amazing skills. Are you advertising it enough? Are you not nauseatingly, I hope, but advertising your skills, letting people know what you're good at. Are you doing that? If you're not, my advice is to listen to Arnie. You could go and watch Arnold's Netflix documentary if you want to see a guy that was very, very driven to succeed. I feel there's a lot of red in Arnold, and you will see his three-part documentary on Netflix is fantastic. He says those words: early to bed, early to rise, work, 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 and advertise. Great stuff. So think about social media. Work with the right people to gain the traction that you need. Paul, this is your moment, I think. Paul Hutchinson. Do you want to just talk a little bit about your rocking social media and what we've started to do?
Yeah, so I kind of specialize, or I almost fell into specialize helping DJs, which really came out of lockdown. I just got really frustrated that some DJs were just sitting on their ass doing nothing, when for me it was a perfect opportunity to sort of get all your stuff together that you never had time to do before. Things like doing a website, or I don't know, if you're a mobile DJ, getting all your equipment, sorted, and all of this stuff, getting ready to come out of lockdown, and live streaming during lockdown so people remember you when they come out of lockdown. Because if you just hide for a year and a half, people are going to forget you. It's the people that are going to make a difference that stand out. And during that time, I wrote my first ever book, DJ's Guide to Success. And 75% of that book is about social media and using social media as a tool to be able to get your story across. Because I feel that a lot of people, I found a lot of DJs do this, but I've also found a lot of businesses do this as well, where they're trying to sell all the time. And like DJs will just fill up their feed with flyers of where they're playing next without really telling anybody things like, why they started DJing, which DJs inspired them, what kind of music do they love, really telling their story and getting to know them. I really think that makes a difference. There's a DJ called MK who's quite big, and he's just started doing videos on a lot more personal things like food, rating food and things like that. I've never seen any other big DJ do that. And he's getting thousands of views on it, and people are really starting to connect with him, and it's going to make him more popular. So the importance of social media is using that personal tool. It's not a tool to sell. Yeah, it's there for free, but you can't sell to people. You have to tell your story.
Yeah. I mean, Paul, that's beautiful. I want you to look in the chat box, because I think you've got another client in Angela, and Angela. Yeah, exactly, Angela. Your point in there takes you more time than the work you need to do. Yeah, because I'm busy working all day. I'm busy working. Yeah, I'm on calls, coaching calls, business development calls, sales calls. I'm meetings. I'm traveling. I'm doing all this stuff. I haven't got time to do a lot of the stuff that if you actually think about it, Angela, and you see how productive I am, there's no way I can do that on my own, is it? Right?
And it's whether like I've got my kinesiology bit, I've got my DJing bit. I'm setting up another company now that I want to get involved with DJing in care homes. It's like I've got all this stuff. Do I just bundle it into one? Because what you were saying, Paul, is so true about that integrity of just the person you are, and does it need to be split up into all of these separate bits? So yeah, I'll be in touch.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, it is.
Sorry, Paul.
It is one of the.
Only for time, mate. Sorry, only for time. But let me just finish up this section, and then we'll have a chat about that, Paul, please. And if I can stay on, I can stay on afterwards for sure. I appreciate some people will need to drop off, so apologies. But you two should connect and talk for sure, because Angela, you are your brand ultimately, yeah. And each of you could benefit from. Paul's just come into my world. And I think it'd be really interesting for you guys to really start to connect with what he's doing. It's not silly money. He's a good lad, and it's good work, right? But let me flick through this, and then we'll take it off, and we'll have another Q&A. But hold your questions, Paul and Angela, because that conversation can continue in the next few minutes, okay? Now, look, you can also do PR, books, coaching, all kinds of things that you're working on. Promote your skills to the masses, right? PR as well, social media, PR companies, email marketing, send your messages out, grow your list, referrals, testimonials, case studies. I worked with Mark. It was brilliant. I need to do more of this. Tell other people. You'll see us do that with all of the e-colors companies we work with. Just been doing that with JCB in the last week or two. Advertise, listen to Arnie, listen to what he said. Pay if you need to, but test also what works where. I'm not a huge fan of paid advertising, but if it works and you can try a little bit here and there, then it's worth looking at. Team up with others, that mastermind, build partnerships, train, develop, keep going. And influencers, you can use other influencers and get involved using the right people to help you. And you can ask people to review what you're doing, because a review, I know when I go onto Amazon, I look at the reviews first. So, I've got a lot of reviews for Life Remixed, Money Remix coming soon. Lots of reviews. Ask people to reviews. And then think about customer loyalty programs like affiliates, because they can really, really help as well. But invest in yourself is key here, really key. The Money Remix book is coming very, very soon. And we've got our 14 steps of all the things that we believe has worked for myself and Paul Grant to get to ourselves, to get ourselves to a wealthy place. I hope that you really get involved in this book. It's audio, there's also, a paperback, etc. But we would love you to give us reviews and read it once it's out, and it's going to be out in a few weeks. More news to follow. As you know, I will let you know that. Andy and I are running a self-awareness session for e-colors on Friday the 21st of March. If you'd like to join, please do invite yourselves and others. It's complimentary to premium report holders, and we'd love to see you. You can become an e-colors practitioner. We have dates for end of March. Scott's already joined, so have quite a few others. So that's going to be great. We've got weekend options and indeed Monday, Friday options as well. So it's all there for you. This is on the Equilibria website, so get involved. And let's just be clear. What's known as the golden rule of life is to treat people as they would like to be treated. What's the platinum rule of life? Treat people as they would like to be treated. And Emma, I'm a sales machine, but in a lovely way, I hope. Not nauseating anyway, fingers crossed. But look, treat people as they need to be treated is very, very key here, right? My goal is to continue the sales for all of us and then encourage you to go out and make your sales in your business. And I want to give you the tools to be able to do that. And it's key that it's worked. It's worked for me. It's worked for Paul and Equilibria. It's worked for lots of people. It will work for you, but you need to ask yourself a few questions as well. So thoughts, words, actions, habits become your character, become your legacy. But being intentional is key. And I will follow up with that intentional communication guide. Join us on LinkedIn at Equilibria Worldwide as well in the group. Let's have a quick debrief. What's gone well? What or how do you feel about sales and marketing now? Are you ready or are you still blocked in some fashion? And then the big question there is what's stopping you? So what went well? How do you feel about things and what's stopping you is the big key questions. So let me take that share off. And then
I say, Mark, it went well that you finished bang on the hour. Brilliant.
It doesn't always happen, does it, Andy, to be honest? But excellent. So anyone like to share? Jane in Australia, you've just said ready. Do you want to share something, Jane? How are you? What's going on?
Hi, it's good. It's 9 p.m. here. I'm trying to stay with you guys
Oh, bless
after
you.
working
Thank
all
you.
day.
Thank you.
So, yeah, no, it's just really good to hear everyone's thoughts. Really good to see everyone's strengths and weaknesses in the colors. I would love to do the course. Unfortunately, it's not run in Australia, and I'm not going to get over there by March.
No, it's all online, Jane.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
But I think it's in the middle of the night for me.
But let me come back to you on that. Well, I'll talk to you.
Okay. Alrighty. But I'm just ready to post again. There's that fear, I think, in what Paul was saying. We don't have to be doing it the same way that everybody does. I love that. Like the fact that there's a DJ that's doing it completely differently, and he's actually getting loads of likes. I don't like playing by the normal rules. I guess that must be being yellow. So I like to do things differently, but sometimes I think I'm a bit too scattered. So it's just nice to hear that, we need to just keep that, keep the direction in sight. So yeah, thanks. And thanks for all of these, Mark. I'm enjoying them.
Jane, it's a pleasure, and I'm so pleased to see you. And yeah, it's I'll come back to you on an email, Jane, for sure. But I think it's important that we start to really appreciate how we communicate with others, because I've learned to do it, and it really does give positive results for all of us, which is key, right? So that's lovely. Thank you, Jane. John Johnston, do you want to say hello? I realise I haven't said hello to you yet. I'll come to each of you on the screen. I can see. John.
Yeah, so I mean, funny enough, I've been in sales more or less my whole life, selling fitness equipment to gyms, and I've built some big successful businesses. But I've kind of slipped out of that a little bit through the pandemic, and then sort of rebuilding my business after it failed after that.
Hmm.
But I'm going to a trade show tomorrow, so I'm kind of thinking about my strategy, and there's like hundreds of people there that I can be selling to. Um, so yeah, it's really interesting. But I'm also thinking about, are different colors more likely to be salespeople? And I was really interested in that green one as well, about like heavy yellow wouldn't do well selling to a green, for example, unless they're really organized. I'm a red blue, so I'm sort of an empathetic doer. So I find, I'm probably naturally got natural affinity for sales, but the blue part of me means that I have to sell something I really believe in. Otherwise, I'm blocked, can't do it. So
Absolutely.
hence I've always sold health and fitness products.
And yeah, and you're very good at it, John, and very successful at it. We can all sell. Any one of us can sell, because we can all dip into that yellow socializer communication piece. But as
Yeah.
you rightly point out, I suddenly realized many years ago that I was being too much for a lot of people. And I didn't understand why I was being too much for a lot of people. I was like, "What's going on here?" Because I'm like, "Come on,
Yeah.
And actually, I had to realise that if I was going to work with and/or sell to reds, greens, and blues, I need to communicate in a way that they need to be communicated with, rather than it's quite easy with a yellow. When we do the breakouts in the e-colours groups, put all the yellows in one corner, reds, greens, blues, all in different corners. The first thing I say to people when they come back, I say, "How did it feel to be with your people?"
Yeah.
Because it's so lovely for people to be, "Oh, right, they're all like me. Okay, this is easy." That's easy. But actually understanding how to be with other people and communicate with other people is very, very powerful. And that's the key point to business development for any one of us with what we're doing.
But that, if I can just jump in, that when we did that session in
Isha.
Isha at the theatre, when we all went into groups, that's when it really hit me, because there was a woman there who was saying, we were all reds, and we were saying, "Oh, do this," and we are really quick. And she said, "Oh, I'm not like that." I'm like, "What do you mean you're not like? You're a red. We're all this." And then she said, "Oh, I'm in the wrong group," and she was actually a green. And that's when it hit me that this is actually really, I mean, it was stark. So that's when I became a true believer after that.
Brilliant, John. And yeah, and you make a great point. You really do make a great point. I think it's so important to understand, once you put people into the four quadrants and then bring them back together, it's really easy to be with your people if you're all in your strengths. But if you go into your potential limiters, there can be a lot of clashes. But then if you mix up the groups into the four quadrants, it can be a real mess. Unless we learn how to communicate with each other. So brilliant, John. Thank you. So I want to go back to Paul Hutchinson and Angela, actually. So Paul, I apologise for cutting you off in the main part of the call there. But do you want to answer Angela's question, which was more about branding and for me, Mark Wilkinson's the brand, and then I've got all these offshoots and companies. But do you want to explain that to Angela a bit more about what your thoughts are?
Yeah, definitely. It's one of the hardest ones to kind of get right, and it's something I've struggled with. I've really been geeking out on social media for the last 10, 12 years, and I always thought I needed to have separate things for everything. But you do have to remember that you are the main umbrella, you are the main brand, and everything comes off of that, no matter how many different things you have. So it is more important to have it all on one page. Plus, it's so hard trying to grow other pages all the time. It makes so much more sense to have it all in one place. And when you think about all these big brands like Virgin and people like that, and brands like that, Richard Branson has more followers than Virgin, and any other brand you can think of. The main person has more followers because people can connect with them more. So that's also another way, another reason why you should do it that way. But yeah, make sure you have like content pillars of the things that you want to promote, and just make sure that you are mixing them up. But again, making sure that you're doing it in the right way so that you're not pushing these things on people. You're almost trying to educate them in how you can help them, and the things that you do, can help other people. That's the big message that you need to get across, is what I can do will make your life better. And this is why you need it. That's it.
Absolutely. And yeah, drop the mic, Paul. Well done. But also as well, Paul managed to make sense of my world by putting content pillars together and starting to bring it all together. And we're still working on it, but it's a great shout. I'll come to you in a second, Angela. Jane, I saw you in the chat box there. I think the key point there is digging a bit more into that green. Yeah, it's hard for a yellow, but it's trying to get there. You can get there based on your percentages, which we could look at. Paul Hutchinson, with your book, I think you could rewrite it ever so slightly and call it, social media guide to success rather than just for DJs. Maybe that might expand it a bit more as well, mate. Just as a thought. And Angela, what did you want to say?
Just that the reason I've always kept my private and business life separate is because my private life was music, DJ, like all of that stuff. I just love that. And then I'm a registered nurse, and it's all based on fear, because I was worried that if somebody saw what I was really like, I might actually get get referred to the NMC. Not that I've done anything wrong, but it's based on fear, and that's why this is so liberating now. Not working for the NHS is that actually I can become me.
Well,
and so your words are so helpful, Paul. Thank you. Yeah, I'm following you on LinkedIn as well.
Angela,
And I love your brand as well, DJ. I've always listened to them.
Angela,
Podcasts.
if I said to you that I didn't write Life Remix while I was in a corporate job because of fear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't feel comfortable writing about all that crazy stuff that I got up to, because if I was in a six-figure salary in a very posh job and doing this, if I suddenly wrote a book about all this horrible stuff that I did when I was younger, I had a fear of being judged by that corporate environment and potentially losing my job when actually everything was riding on it. I wasn't able to do it. But the day I got sacked, and I did get sacked, the day I got sacked, Emma put up a big congratulations sign and then said, "What are you doing about this bloody book?" I decided to write it because I no longer had the constraints or the fear. So, and it's a big shout for you to say that. So I love that. And yeah, I mean, I think we can all learn a lot from each other here. Emma also says in the chat box there that we get more likes for the dog. And we do. I don't know why, but Frankie's more popular than me, and yet I'm going to help you. But anyway, that's a different thing. But yeah, really, really interesting. Really great call. We can all sell, we can all improve. And I know lots and lots of people can watch these videos back and do watch these videos back on YouTube. So I think it's been really fascinating. Get comfortable in your own skin, people. Get comfortable with being rejected by some people. That's just the way of the world. And then, yeah, start putting yourself out there. We've got the tools in this group to all help one another really make something important happen. So onwards and upwards. Right. I'm off, but I want to say thank you all very much. I've really enjoyed the company. I've really enjoyed the call. Yeah, good point, Jane, in the chat box about animals more than humans. But we love our animals, don't we? But it's been very good. It's been very pleasurable. Thank you all for your input. I'll be in touch very, very soon, and we'll talk soon. All right. Thanks, guys. See you later.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.